Mina SayWhat Llona here with Marc Lamont Hill. You have so many titles: journalist, book owner, CNN commentator, TV host, author, activist. It goes on and on. I'm very honored.
I'm staying busy, but I'm just glad to be here with you. Thanks for coming.
So I'm actually in North Philly, right in his bookstore, Uncle Bobby's Coffee and Books. This is an amazing vibe that you have going on here. It's not your average bookstore. Talk about it a little bit, because the books are very carefully curated. The music is very carefully curated. How did you come up with this?
You know, I always wanted to open a bookstore. You know, I'm from North Philly, so I said, what did I wish I would have had in my neighborhood growing up? You know, I would go out to 52nd Street, I go to the gallery, I go to all these places to find these dope bookstores. And I said, I want one in our community, because our community deserves to have dope stuff too. And so here in Germantown, I said, we need a coffee shop, we need a bookstore. How can I put those two things in a marriage together in a way that'll feel different than the average bookstore? I'm so glad you said this feels and looks different than the average bookstore, because that's what I wanted. I don't want to be Barnes & Noble. I don't want to be Amazon. I want to be a place where people can be in community with one another, enjoy one another, and feel like they're at home.
And in today's time, I think you have to approach it from a different angle. You know, when you were starting this, did you think that the feedback is going to be as big as it's been?
I'm overwhelmed. You know, I wouldn't have opened it if I thought it wasn't going to work, but it's working better and faster than I could have ever imagined. And it's not because I'm particularly smart or anything like that. It's because the community showed love. And consistently, Philadelphia shows us that when you give them something that they want, they'll show up, they'll do it well. And they'll be consistent, and that's what we've had every day. Consistent people buying books, buying coffee, but more importantly, being part of our community. And that's what this is about. It's not about making money. If I wanted to make money, a lot better ways to make money than selling books. But it was about building this community.
So you're getting the feedback that you wanted, because I would envision in today's world where everything is online, opening a bookstore maybe wasn't the most, encouraged idea here.
It was not. I can't tell. Almost every friend I had was like, "Dog, you really going? What you bored, man? You going through a crisis? Like, how you gonna take all your money and put it in a bookstore? You know?" Or people tell me something like, "You know, bookstores are closing," or you know, there's this thing called Amazon. Like, I ain't never heard of Amazon. And I told them, no, I have an idea. I truly believe this idea is going to work, because I believe in people.
Yeah.
And I believe that if you give people opportunity, they will come to a place where they can see different people, have conversation, and not just be stuck behind their laptops all the time. And that's what they're doing.
And here in North Philly, I think we need to provide a safe place for families to come together. I see fathers reading to their daughters, mothers drinking coffee with their kids. Is that what you envisioned, or it just happened naturally?
I mean, family and community was important to me. We put the children's book section in that corner in the front room, because in my mind, I was like, kids gonna be sitting on that floor. Kids gonna be talking to one another, and parents gonna put the kids in that corner while they drink their coffee. Mm-hmm. And there's a space for reading to each other. We do story time every Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. so that people whose kids are under school age can have some out of school activity. Homeschool parents come next door to our other event space, and they do their lessons there. So from the beginning, we said we want this to be a community space. We want this to be a space where people feel like they're at home at all times.
I love the selection that you have here, the book titles. This is not your average bookstore. You didn't just get the top 10 bestsellers books and put them in here. Do you read all these books, and how do you pick what gets featured here?
I've read a lot of them, not all of them. There's a lot. We do keep the top 10 books, but what we also did was basically the best part of this whole job for me was picking the books. So I picked every book in the store. I started by picking books that I read, books that I thought were important, books that people have said are important. And then from there, I built it out, and then I showed it to folk. And then, there's always somebody that'll be willing to say, why you ain't got this? Why you ain't got that? Right. So we went and got it. Children's books, we went and got more stuff. We wanted to be the most diverse children's book section you could find. And we just kept adding and building until we got the thing that we wanted. And I couldn't be happier.
So you're an author yourself. Today we're here because Marc is actually featuring Beverly Bond's book. And you're an author, she's an author. When did that come about, this collaboration?
I've known Beverly for years. I always support her Black Girls Rock events. And she's a friend. And I love what she does. I love the self-esteem and the empowerment that she's building in our Black girls and women. And I love who she is and what she stands for. And I'm just a fan. So when I knew this book was coming out, I said I want to be a part of it. I'm going to buy it. I'm going to read it. I'm going to share it. I'm going to sell it. I'm going to have an event for it. Whatever I could do to support Beverly, I'm going to do, because she's so dope and she loves us unconditionally.
Is this a precursor to like upcoming events where you're going to feature women and minority writers and writers in general here?
Absolutely. You know, since we've opened, we've already done dozens of book events, and every week we have more coming. We have big names coming, local authors, independent authors, best-selling authors. A lot of them are women, a lot of them are people of color, a lot of them are first-time authors. We want to run the gamut, you know, and we want to make it a conversation. So we want dope authors to be talking to other writers, other journalists, other community members, so that we can have something bigger than just somebody coming and reading a book to you and taking your money.
It's Women's History Month. I thought it was very appropriate that Marc has Beverly Bond here. You know, with the Me Too and Time's Up movements, as a man, how are you taking all that in? Have you adjusted how you treat women? I mean, what do you think has been the response from the male point of view?
I think it's always important to be self-critical. Even before there's a movement, you should ask yourself, what do my relationships look like? How can I be a better person? How can I be a better partner? How can I be a better father? How can I be a better son? How can I be a better boss? How can I be a better, employee, etc. In relation to the gender question, and in relation to questions of sexual violence, sexual assault, sexual harassment, all these things we have to always be thinking about. And I've tried to do that. The Me Too movement for me is an opportunity to reflect on that and to amplify women's voices, given the long history of ignoring them, believing women the first time, acknowledging that these stories are real, and that they're not outliers. It's not just one employee who had a bad situation, but that there's a norm. And you work in entertainment, I work in entertainment. There are norms around this stuff. I work in politics. There's norms around this stuff. And I work in universities. There's norms around this stuff, and the norms are dangerous and they're bad. And we all have work to do. I'm not perfect. I could be a better ally, I can be a better advocate, and I want to keep doing that work so that I can be.
I've seen and heard a lot of men having these conversations. What's appropriate, what's inappropriate? In your personal life, what's something that you learned that you're like, oh, maybe I need to stop doing that?
When I was a high school teacher, I taught in South Philly at Furnace High School, and sometimes my kids would come in looking sad or looking whatever, and I would ask them, like, why are you not smiling? Mm-hmm. And one of my students, she was maybe 10th grade, said, it's really not appropriate to ask me why I'm not smiling. Why do I need to be smiling? I was like a first-year teacher, and I hadn't thought about it before. And then I realized there is a societal norm that assumes that women have to be smiling, they have to be happy, they have to be looking a certain way, largely for male pleasure, so men can feel comfortable. That's not okay. I don't know what happened to her day. I got days where I don't want to smile. Why is that expectation for women? Those types of things that we say matter-of-factly, we have to be self-critical of. And I've spent my life doing that. And I remember maybe a few years ago, my daughter and I were in the Uber, and the driver said that to her. Like, yo, why you not smiling? You need to smile. My daughter was like 10. I went off, right? But I wouldn't even known to do that, 10 years before. So it was a growth period for me.
You're an activist in today's social media world where everyone's an activist. How do you really change? How do you incite change here?
I would say first, I don't think everybody's an activist. I think some people play activists on TV or on the internet, but the work of activism is long and it's painstaking and it's hard and it goes without cameras, most of it. And I think the best thing we can do right now is not just have activists, but have organizers. We have a lot of people who are willing to react to things or to protest, even to get arrested. But the work of making flyers, the work of getting people to come out, the work of doing teach-ins, the work of doing preparations, the work of doing study groups, that's the work that never gets on TV. That's the work that you never get credit for. You rarely get credit for. And that's the work that actually makes movements move. So right now, if we want to change things, we need to continue to organize, we need to continue to build, and we need to continue to do behind-the-scenes work and not always look for the big payoff. The big payoff will come one day, but the work of freedom and justice is slow and it's painstaking, and we may not even live to see the outcomes we're fighting for, but they're worth it anyway because our ancestors died so we could live in the world we live in. They never got to enjoy a moment of freedom, some of them. Some never got to enjoy the vote. Some never got to enjoy seeing a black president or a black CEO or a black bookstore. Mm-hmm. But they did the work anyway, and they're so happy right now. And I want to be able to do that, and I think we should all be willing to do that for the next generation of young people.
You opening a bookstore in North Philly is very symbolic. Can you talk about the literacy rates and the problem that we're having here in Philadelphia?
I think all around the city, all around the country, book culture is dwindling. So part of it is about making people, not literate culture. People still read. We text, we tweet, we use the internet. All of it counts. But the idea of books as a source of information is sometimes dwindling. It's frustrating sometimes when people use Wikipedia or their Twitter feed as their primary resource. I want people to read books, and I want people to read ideas and trace ideas and engage ideas. And I think having a bookstore here does that. I think that having also in a place where schools aren't giving us access to what we need. We're not getting the right curriculum. We're not getting the right history taught to us. Everything is about the test. Having a bookstore, again, reminds us that, hey, what you get in school will get you out of school. But what you get in bookstores, what you get from these traditions will sustain you and support you. You may never get to read bell hooks in school, but you need it, right? You may never get Malcolm X, but you need it. You know,
I didn't read bell hooks until college. I feel like when I went to college, it's like my whole world changed. I mean, you're talking about policy a little bit here. Is that what needs to happen? The policy and maybe the school curriculum needs to switch a little bit?
A little bit, but the school curriculum can't affirm the value of black people if the world doesn't believe that black people are worth something. So we have to dismantle white supremacy before we can expect schools to teach things that affirm blackness or womanhood or that poor people's lives matter. None of these things will happen if we don't have the right ideology. So we can't change the structure unless we change our thinking, and we can't change our thinking until some of these structures change. So it's a project that has to happen simultaneously. We need to dismantle these broken schools. But we have to replace them with something. And if we got the wrong people replacing them, then what's the point?
My friend is a teacher, and she taught all around Philadelphia, and now she's in Martin Luther King. And one of the biggest things that she told me was she was just very surprised at the literacy rate and how some kids cannot read. How do we change that as someone right from North Philly who's grown up in the system?
Yeah, we intervene early. You know, I'm always, as a scholar of literacy, I'm always a little uneasy when we say people aren't literate, because people are literate in lots of ways that we don't count. But I will say that if we want people to read on grade level, if we want people to graduate, if we want people not to go to prison, because there's relationships between literacy rates and incarceration, if we want to fix those things, we need to intervene early. We know what works, and that's what's frustrating. Early literacy works, Head Start works, after-school programs work, arts programs work. Those things don't just keep kids out of school. They stop them from dropping out. They stop them from getting pregnant. They stop them from getting HIV/AIDS. They stop them from getting incarcerated, and they raise literacy rates. And we don't do them. We know what works, and we still don't do it. We know what works, and we don't have the political will, or we don't value the lives of those children who are at the bottom. That's what we have to put a spotlight on. That's the work that we have to do. That's a policy issue. But again, there's a deeper moral and ethical issue that says that a kid in Lower Merion, PA, is not disposable. We know that. So a kid right here in Germantown is also not disposable. A kid out in New Trier, Illinois is clearly not disposable. But the kid in Chicago on the South Side is also not disposable. We need policy that affirms the value of our children and the value of their lives in every facet. And until we do that, we're not going to get anywhere.
Right. North Philly, Meek Mill. What are your thoughts on his legal woes right now?
Oh man, shout out to my brother Meek. You know,
we got to do it.
I literally just wrote Meek a letter 3 days ago. I sent him about 10 books. And I always send Meek books, you know, when he's on house arrest, locked up, whatever. I love Meek, and he's a good brother. And I think that we have a system that is too punitive. We ask the wrong questions. We ask who did it and how do we punish them. Instead of asking who did it and how do we punish them, we have to ask ourselves who was harmed and how do we make them whole again. And if you ask the question, who did it and how do we punish them, then you're always looking to beat people. You're always looking to hurt people. You're always looking to lock people up. You're always looking to cage people. And so you have somebody who is on probation for 10 years. If I followed you around for 10 years, 15 years. I mean, how about this? If I followed you on the highway for an hour, how many rules would you break?
If I know you're following me, none.
Right.
But I'm from Jersey, so I go a little fast.
Until you get comfortable, right? And then you be like, hey, follow me. Then you be like, all right, I'm not exactly 4 car lengths behind. All right, I didn't stop at the stop sign exactly long enough. I might take my seatbelt off for a second to roll down the window and so forth and so on. We all make mistakes. Nobody's perfect. And when the system surveils our people, for not just for a week or a month, but for 10, 15 years, you're going to catch them doing something. If someone needs to not use drugs to stay out of jail, rehab and treatment is what they need, not incarceration. Right. Meek's not perfect. Could Meek make better choices? Absolutely. Could I make better choices? Absolutely. Could you make better choices? Absolutely.
Every day.
Every day. But the key to this is to live in a world where you don't have to be perfect to survive. Everybody's entitled to 3 things: good love, healthy choices, and second chances. And unfortunately, the vulnerable don't get any of those things from the state, particularly second chances. So yeah, I want Meek to be okay. I want Meek to come home. I want Meek to make good music. But I don't want us to focus just on my brother Meek. I also want us to look at how Meek is a representation of a broader systemic problem where we get over-incarcerated, where our probation sentences are too long, and where judges are quick to throw us in the right. And if Meek weren't rich and famous, he'd have been there a long time ago. I mean, so this is not normal behavior. And then there's all the irregularities in the case that the other people can get.
The corruption.
Yeah, that I can't speak to just because not because I'm afraid to, because I just don't know enough about it. But all of it needs to get dealt with. You know what I mean? But again, I pray Meek comes home soon. I hope he lives a long, healthy life. And the last time I talked to Meek, which was right before he got locked up, we were talking about New Jim Crow. We were talking about the movie 13. And he was telling me about some laws about incarceration. Meek is thinking about this stuff. He's drilling down. Meek's gonna come home a different person, man, or even better. Not because of prison. I'll be clear about that. Jail ain't making Meek better. Meek is making Meek better. But despite his extraordinarily absurd circumstance, he's gonna be bigger and stronger than ever.
Last question, just curious. What 10 books did you send him?
I can't say.
Come on, give me 2. Top 3 books.
Honestly, my worry is that if I tell you what books I sent him, people will see this and they will stop those books from getting into prison. That's my concern. The prisons are doing everything they can to stop us from sending books. They're making it illegal for bookstores to even get books to prison. They're going to have one vendor that can sell to bookstores. And part of it is about censorship and part of it is about money. And I don't want to be a part of any of that. So as we say in the hood, no name, no blame. I ain't telling nobody nothing. But hope Meek enjoys the books. And when he come home, he'll tell you.
Marc Lamont Hill, ladies and gentlemen. Mina SayWhat, Llona. Always just inspirational, and just your words are right on point. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate y'all. Peace.